November 8, 1942, found Lieutenant Robert Scott navigating the treacherous skies above the Gilbert Islands, deep within the Pacific Theater of Operations. With a deft hand, he sharply maneuvered his P-40 Warhawk to the port side, narrowly evading a lethal barrage of glowing tracer rounds that emanated from a Japanese Zero and streaked perilously close to his cockpit canopy. His digit instinctively poised itself over the gun trigger, eager to unleash the formidable power of 6 Browning 50 caliber machine guns, the United States' most potent aerial armament, which stood fully charged and prepared for engagement. Yet, upon his decisive squeeze, an unnerving silence ensued. All half-dozen weapons inexplicably failed in unison. The enemy Zero pilot, keenly observing the sudden cessation of fire from Scott's aircraft, swiftly adjusted his trajectory, sensing an opportune moment for a decisive kill. In a desperate bid for survival, Scott plunged his P-40 into a precipitous dive, pushing the aircraft to its absolute operational limits, ultimately finding refuge within the protective shroud of dense cloud cover. He eventually returned to Henderson Field, his heart still vigorously pounding from the recent harrowing encounter, his aircraft visibly perforated with numerous bullet holes. "The guns malfunctioned," he succinctly reported to his commanding officer, his voice still tinged with the shock of the incident. "Every single one jammed within the very first burst of fire." This alarming occurrence was far from an isolated incident. Throughout the vast expanse of the Pacific, from the embattled shores of Guadalcanal to the dense jungles of New Guinea, American aviators were consistently reporting an unacceptably high rate of catastrophic failures with their .50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns. The statistical data emerging from these reports was nothing short of terrifying. Across all aerial combat engagements during the entirety of 1942, the M2 Browning machine guns exhibited a jam rate ranging between 18% and 22%. This meant that nearly 1 in every 5 weapons fail at the most critical junctures of combat. Furthermore, on aircraft equipped with 6 or 8 such guns, the probability of at least one weapon jamming during any given engagement soared to an alarming 75%. Please stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The fundamental issue, it was widely understood, did not lie within the intrinsic design of the weapon itself. John Browning, a true visionary in firearms engineering, had crafted an undeniable masterpiece prior to his passing in 1926. Rather, the crux of the problem resided in the intricate mechanics of headspace and timing. The precise, millisecond-perfect synchronization required between the bolt, as complete closure, and the firing pin, subsequent strike. When these critical parameters were incorrectly calibrated, the weapon would either fail to discharge entirely or, far more perilously, detonate rounds while the bolt was still partially open, an event that could lead to the gun, destruction, and potentially compromise the structural integrity of the aircraft itself. Every single M2 machine gun necessitated a meticulous, manual adjustment of its headspace and timing after each barrel replacement or period of intensive usage. Field armorers were theoretically tasked with employing specialized gauges and adhering to scrupulously detailed procedures for these adjustments. However, under the relentless duress of combat conditions, amidst the stifling tropical heat, with weapons suffering from battle damage and exhibiting the wear and tear of continuous operation, these adjustments transformed into a deadly game of chance. Improperly set timing could precipitate 3 distinct and catastrophic failure modes: premature timing, where rounds would fire before the bolt had fully closed, resulting in case ruptures that inevitably jammed the action, firing pinstrikes occurring after the bolt had already begun to open, thereby generating perilous pressure spikes and excessive headspace, which permitted cartridge cases to separate, effectively jamming the chamber. The cumulative consequence of these malfunctions was that American pilots frequently found themselves confronting enemy fighters with weapons that would randomly cease to function. Similarly, bomber crews operating over the hostile skies of Germany were forced to watch in dismay as their vital defensive 150 caliber machine guns fell silent, leaving them vulnerable as Luftwaffe fighters closed in for the attack. What remained unknown to all, what no one could possibly foresee as Lieutenant Scott disembarked from his aircraft after yet another brush with death, was that the ultimate resolution to this profound crisis had in fact been conceived and developed a full decade prior. This breakthrough had originated from the inventive mind of a Springfield Armory gunsmith, a man known for his unconventional and strikingly unorthodox approach to weapons testing. His name was Samuel Green, and his seemingly suicidal proof testing methodology was on the cusp of salvaging the entire .50 caliber program from the brink of obsolescence. The genesis of the Browning .50 caliber M2 machine gun dates back to 1918, coinciding with the twilight years of World War I. John Moses Browning, widely celebrated as America's preeminent firearms designer, ingeniously scaled up his highly successful .30 caliber M1917 design to accommodate the formidable .50 BMG Browning machine gun cartridge. The cartridge itself was a marvel of destructive power, measuring an impressive 5.5 inches in length. It propelled a hefty 700-grain bullet at an astounding velocity of 2,900 feet per second. This projectile possessed the capability to pierce aircraft armor at distances of up to 1,500 yards and could effectively incapacitate enemy vehicles. It was universally acknowledged as the quintessential anti-aircraft and anti-material weapon of its era. However, by 1921, when the initial production model, designated the M1921, was officially introduced into service, it quickly revealed itself to be a labyrinth of complexity. The M1921 was produced in no fewer than 7 distinct configurations: water-cooled, air-cooled, aircraft-mounted, tank-mounted, anti-aircraft, flexible, and fixed. Each of these variations demanded unique component parts, necessitated different maintenance protocols, and required specific timing adjustments. Most critically, the timing and headspace settings mandated manual adjustment by armorers every single time the barrel was replaced, a procedure that was exceptionally frequent under combat conditions. The prescribed procedure for these adjustments was intricate and time-consuming. It involved the meticulous installation of a go gauge to establish the minimum headspace, followed by the installation of a no-go gauge to define the maximum headspace. Subsequently, the barrel lock nut had to be adjusted in precise, incremental steps. Timing was then set using a separate gauge, while the action was manually cycled, followed by test firing and further readjustment if any malfunctions arose. In an ideally equipped workshop, with the correct tools and ample time, a seasoned expert armorer could accomplish this entire procedure in approximately 20 minutes. Yet, under the unforgiving realities of combat, on the unstable deck of a pitching aircraft carrier, at a forward airfield subjected to artillery bombardment, or within the perpetually rain-soaked jungles of the Pacific, this seemingly straightforward process became a source of endless operational difficulties and potentially fatal errors. The ramifications of these issues were tragically severe. A comprehensive study conducted by the Army Ordnance Department in 1925 meticulously examined 500 M1921 machine guns then in active service. The conclusions drawn from this investigation were unequivocally damning. A shocking 47% of the weapons exhibited incorrect headspace settings, and an even more alarming 61% suffered from incorrect timing. The average time between failures was a mere 840 rounds, translating to less than 2 minutes of sustained firing. Furthermore, a staggering 23% of barrel changes resulted in weapons that were completely inoperable. The consensus among experts was crystal clear. The M1921 was inherently too complex for effective field deployment. Major General C.C. Williams, then the Chief of Army Ordnance, articulated his profound concerns in a 1928 communiqué stating, "The current .50 caliber machine gun represents the absolute limits of what can be achieved with manual timing adjustment. Unless a fundamental redesign effectively eliminates the necessity for field timing, this weapon will inevitably remain unreliable in combat conditions." The Army, facing such dire assessments, even contemplated the drastic measure of entirely abandoning the .50 caliber program. Some high-ranking officers passionately advocated for the adoption of 20mm cannons instead, citing their fewer number of guns required, simpler maintenance, and the proven efficacy of existing European technology. However, a significant drawback plagued these larger cannons: their comparatively low rate of fire. The .50 caliber M1921, despite its reliability issues, could unleash between 450 and 600 rounds per minute. Most 20mm cannons, by contrast, could only manage a paltry 60 to 120 rounds per minute. In the dynamic realm of aerial combat, where enemy targets would flash past within mere seconds, the sheer volume of suppressive fire was often as crucial as the individual hitting power of each round. The Army thus found itself confronting an agonizing dilemma: either persevere with an undeniably unreliable weapon or transition to an alternative armament possessing demonstrably inadequate firepower. Then, in 1926, John Browning, the visionary architect behind the .50 caliber program, passed away, leaving the project rudderless and without its guiding genius. Development consequently stalled. Numerous engineers subsequently proposed various modifications, including stronger springs, redesigned bolts, and alternative barrel lock mechanisms, but none of these innovations managed to address the core problem. The gun continued to demand expert adjustment, a standard that proved nearly impossible to consistently achieve under the chaotic and demanding conditions of active combat. By 1930, the United States military had already committed a substantial $2.3 million to .50 caliber development, an amount equivalent to approximately $42 million in today's currency, with very little tangible progress to show for this immense investment. The M1921 remained in limited service, but military strategists were rapidly losing faith in its combat effectiveness. Hope was dwindling. At the esteemed Springfield Armory in Massachusetts, the United States Army's principal hub for small arms innovation, a dedicated yet diminished cadre persisted in its efforts to refine the weapon. Their financial allocation had been severely curtailed, and the program's strategic importance was drastically lowered. A significant portion of the Armory's most skilled engineers had been redeployed to other assignments. It was precisely at this critical juncture that Samuel Green assumed leadership. Green, remarkably, was not a conventional firearms designer. His professional domain lay within mechanical engineering, where he excelled in the intricate fields of manufacturing processes and rigorous quality control. His profound expertise was rooted in precision machining rather than the conceptualization of weaponry. The Army had assigned him to the challenging 50 caliber program, largely because it was a project no one else desired, widely considered a professional cul-de-sac. What the military leadership failed to grasp was that Green's particular mastery of manufacturing techniques was precisely the vital ingredient the M2 machine gun desperately required. The fundamental issue, as he quickly discerned, was not an inherent flaw in the weapon's design itself, but rather the profound difficulty in consistently maintaining that design's operational integrity under strenuous field conditions. Green initiated his tenure by posing a question that had eluded all previous experts. What if we could completely eliminate the necessity for any field adjustments? Samuel Green hardly fit the popular image of a prodigious weapons architect. Born in 1891 in Worcester, Massachusetts, he came of age immersed in the robust industrial landscape that defined America's manufacturing heartland. His father managed a modest machine shop, primarily engaged in the production of textile machinery. By the tender age of 14, Green was already an active participant on the shop floor, diligently acquiring essential skills such as interpreting complex blueprints, expertly operating lathes, and rigorously upholding exacting precision tolerances. He advanced his education at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, attending on a partial scholarship where he pursued mechanical engineering. His culminating thesis explored the seemingly mundane topic of minimizing manufacturing variations in components destined for mass production, a subject so ostensibly unexciting that his academic advisor reportedly struggled to remain awake during its defense. Yet, Green's central insight was profoundly revolutionary for its era. He posited that impeccably tight manufacturing tolerances could entirely obviate the need for subsequent manual adjustments. If individual parts were fabricated with sufficient exactness, they would seamlessly integrate and function flawlessly upon assembly, thereby negating the requirement for skilled technicians to meticulously fiddle with them post-production. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. This groundbreaking concept emerged in 1913, a time when the assembly line itself was barely a decade old, still a nascent innovation. The prevailing wisdom among most manufacturers of the period was that workers would inevitably be required to hand-fit components during the assembly process. Consequently, Green's visionary ideas were largely dismissed as impractical, prohibitively expensive, and simply too formidable to achieve with the existing industrial machinery. Following his graduation, Green embarked on a career trajectory working for various manufacturing enterprises, steadily cultivating a reputation as the individual capable of resolving seemingly insurmountable tolerance challenges. With the outbreak of World War I, he was strategically recruited to Springfield Armory, tasked with bolstering rifle production. He remained at the Armory post-war, dedicating his expertise to implementing manufacturing enhancements for iconic firearms such as the M1903 Springfield rifle, the M1911 pistol, and a variety of machine guns. By 1930, at 40 years of age, he was an accomplished senior engineer, possessing an unblemished professional record, yet he received virtually no public recognition. His diligent work consistently served to facilitate the mass production of designs conceived by others. The manufacturing guy was largely forgotten. When the .50 caliber program teetered on the precipice of outright cancellation, Green, with characteristic resolve, volunteered to assume its leadership. His immediate supervisor harbored significant skepticism regarding this decision. "Sam," his superior cautioned, "this program has already bested some of our most brilliant designers. Even Browning himself was unable to resolve the inherent timing problem before his passing." Green, however, offered a concise and trenchant rebuttal. That's because their approach has been to treat it as a design problem. In reality, it is fundamentally a manufacturing problem. Over a period of 3 intensive months, he meticulously scrutinized every available failure report, every field complaint, and every documented instance of malfunction. He conducted thorough interviews with armorers, gaining invaluable first-hand insights. He closely observed their attempts to accurately set headspace and timing under meticulously simulated field conditions. Furthermore, he personally discharged thousands of rounds through various M1921 models, deliberately introducing worn parts, damaged components, and improper adjustments to systematically identify the precise points and reasons for failure. His ultimate conclusion was undeniably damning. The M1921's timing adjustment mechanism proved excessively sensitive. A mere quarter turn of the timing nut, representing a movement of less than 1 millimeter, constituted the critical demarcation between flawless operation and catastrophic mechanical failure. It became abundantly clear that no armorer could consistently achieve such exacting precision under the chaotic and demanding duress of combat conditions. The optimal solution therefore emerged with striking clarity: completely redesign the weapon so that its timing was immutably set at the factory, thereby eliminating any subsequent need for field adjustment. However, this proposed solution presented a monumental challenge. Implementing fixed timing necessitated that the weapon perform flawlessly with every single barrel under every conceivable environmental condition and across the entire spectrum of manufacturing variations. The required manufacturing tolerances were significantly tighter than anything Springfield Armory had ever successfully achieved. Green's supervisor articulated this stark reality with unvarnished candor. "Sam," he stated bluntly, "what you are proposing demands a level of manufacturing precision far beyond our current capabilities. We simply cannot maintain tolerances that tight across thousands of individual guns." Green's response was unwavering: "Then we shall improve our manufacturing processes, because there is no other viable solution." What transpired next marked the point where Green's profoundly unconventional methodologies and his audacious willingness to stake everything irrevocably altered the trajectory of weapons history. Springfield Armory, on March 15, 1932. Samuel Green stood poised within the confines of the test bunker, alongside the inaugural prototype of what would soon be recognized as the formidable M2 Browning. The ambitious redesign process had spanned 18 arduous months. Every critical dimension of the weapon had undergone rigorous refinement. The barrel lock mechanism in particular had been completely re-engineered with the express purpose of obviating any requirement for timing adjustment. The headspace was now meticulously calibrated at the factory, using precision gauges boasting an accuracy of 0.0001 inch, a standard 10 times more precise than any previously employed. Yet Green understood implicitly that precision manufacturing, while crucial, was not, in isolation, sufficient. He recognized the imperative to unequivocally demonstrate that the weapon would perform with unyielding reliability, even under the most extreme and unimaginable conditions. His chosen method for this proof was both ingeniously simple and alarmingly audacious. Green had devised what he termed a proof round, a specialized .50 BMG cartridge, intentionally loaded with 30% more propellant powder than standard military ammunition. The resultant chamber pressure generated by this round soared to over 70,000 psi, significantly exceeding the weapon's designed operational limits. If any single component harbored even the slightest manufacturing flaw, if any tolerance deviated by even a minute fraction of a millimeter, the gun was destined for catastrophic failure. At a pressure of 70,000 psi, such a failure would manifest as an explosive rupture of the receiver itself. Shrapnel would be propelled outwards in all directions at supersonic velocities, posing an instant and lethal threat to anyone within a 20-foot radius. The test bunker, while robustly constructed, was designed to safeguard observers from the hazards of conventional weapons testing. It was emphatically not engineered to contain the explosive disintegration of a .50 caliber machine gun. Green's assistant, a young ordnance officer named James Patterson, reacted with profound horror upon first encountering these specialized proof rounds. "Dr. Green," he exclaimed, his voice laced with alarm, "this is sheer madness. If that gun explodes, while it will certainly confirm that the manufacturing tolerances are insufficient, you could be killed, and then someone else will be left to complete this vital project." The urgent and audacious proposal put forth by Dr. Green was promptly brought to the attention of Colonel Howard, the commanding officer of the Armory, by Patterson. Within a matter of mere minutes, Colonel Howard made his way to the secluded test bunker, his demeanor serious. He immediately confronted Dr. Green, stating, "Dr. Green, my understanding is that you intend to subject your experimental prototype to a rigorous test involving ammunition that has been intentionally overloaded." Dr. Green confirmed his intention, asserting, "Indeed, sir, such proof testing is considered a fundamental and standard operating procedure in our development process." Colonel Howard, however, was visibly concerned by the proposed parameters. "Not with a 30% overload," he retorted, his voice tinged with alarm. "That level of stress is simply suicidal. Should the weapon unfortunately detonate, the structural integrity of this bunker will offer absolutely no protection to you." Dr. Green, unwavering in his conviction, countered, "Sir, if this weapon cannot withstand such demanding proof loads, then it is unequivocally unfit for the realities of combat. Our soldiers will rely upon this armament with their very lives, and it is imperative that I ascertain its absolute reliability and ensure it will not betray their trust when it matters most." Colonel Howard suggested a more cautious approach, proposing, "We could undertake this proof testing in a more gradual manner. Let us commence with a 10% overload, subsequently progressing to 15%. Dr. Green firmly rejected this compromise. "No, sir," he stated emphatically. "Incremental or graduated testing methodologies will regrettably fail to expose inherent manufacturing defects. This weapon must demonstrably prove its resilience by enduring the most extreme, worst-case operational conditions imaginable." Colonel Howard reiterated his strong objection, emphasizing, "This course of action directly contravenes every established safety protocol and guideline." With a respectful yet resolute tone, Dr. Green pressed his point. Sir, with all due deference, the existing M1-21 model regrettably contributes to American casualties due to its inherent failures in active combat situations. I cannot, in good conscience, sanction this new design for full-scale production unless I personally confirm its capacity to survive conditions that are demonstrably far more arduous and unforgiving than any conceivable combat scenario. Colonel Howard maintained an intense, prolonged gaze upon Dr. Green, a silent assessment of the man's resolve. Time twos. Finally, he broke the silence, remarking with a grim inflection, "If by some tragic turn of events you perish in the execution of this endeavor, I will undoubtedly appear utterly foolish for having granted my permission." Dr. Green responded with a calm, understated confidence. "Then, sir, it would be prudent for me to ensure my survival." Following this terse exchange, Colonel Howard, acknowledging the gravity and potential consequences, affixed his signature to the authorization document. Dr. Green then meticulously prepared and loaded the specialized proof rounds, a total of 10 of them, each specifically engineered with the destructive potential to obliterate the weapon itself. With deliberate precision, he chambered the inaugural round. His hands, remarkably, remained perfectly steady, betraying no hint of trepidation. Every conceivable variable had been painstakingly calculated and accounted for in his exhaustive analysis. The intricate mathematical models he had constructed unequivocally predicted the weapon's ability to withstand the immense pressures. The implicit, unspoken hope was that these calculations would prove absolutely accurate in the face of raw force. With a final, resolute act, Dr. Green engaged the trigger mechanism. Before we continue with the dramatic unfolding of this critical test, we kindly ask you to stay with us and watch the conclusion of this compelling narrative. We would be immensely grateful for your support in the form of a like and a subscription to our channel. Please also take a moment to share in the comments section where you are tuning in from and your thoughts on the crucial topic presented in this video. The date was March the 15th, 1932, at precisely 2:47 p.m., within the confines of the Springfield Armory test range. The initial proof round detonated with an astounding force. The resulting sound was absolutely deafening. A sharp, concussive metallic crack that reverberated powerfully across the entire testing facility, seemingly shaking the very ground. The weapon experienced a violent, jarring recoil, causing the robust test mount to tremble noticeably. Yet, against all odds and expectations, the gun did not catastrophically explode. Crucially, the receiver maintained its structural integrity, and the barrel, remarkably, remained completely intact and undamaged. Without hesitation, Green proceeded to chamber the second round, firing it with the same unwavering conviction. To the relief of all present, the weapon cycled flawlessly, performing its mechanical duties with impeccable precision. This pattern continued with the third, fourth, and fifth rounds, each discharge confirming the gun's astonishing resilience. By the time the 10th and final proof round was fired, Patterson, who had initially sought refuge behind the protective bunker wall, could no longer contain his awe. He had abandoned his shielded position and was now standing directly alongside Green, utterly mesmerized by the unfolding spectacle. "It's holding," Patterson breathed, his voice barely a whisper, a testament to the sheer disbelief and wonder at the gun's extraordinary performance. Following the completion of the arduous test, Green meticulously examined the weapon. The barrel, having endured such immense internal pressures and rapid firing, was radiating an intense heat, causing the very air around it to visibly shimmer and distort. With a focused concentration, he carefully ran his fingers across the receiver, searching for any telltale signs of structural compromise, minute cracks, subtle bulges, or any other indication of excessive stress. "Nothing," he declared, his voice imbued with a quiet triumph. Proceeding with his inspection, he expertly disassembled the bolt mechanism. To his immense satisfaction, there was absolutely no deformation evident in its components. Furthermore, the critical locking lugs, which bore the brunt of the firing forces, displayed no discernible damage whatsoever. "It worked," Green stated softly, a profound sense of vindication in his tone. "The manufacturing tolerances, precisely engineered and meticulously applied, have demonstrably held under the most extreme conditions." For the subsequent 3 weeks, Dr. Green escalated his rigorous evaluation, subjecting a total of 6 M2 prototype units to a relentless and increasingly brutal series of trials. These demanding assessments included the continuous discharge of an astounding 50,000 rounds, systematic barrel replacements after every 5,000 rounds to gauge longevity, the application of extreme proof loads at intervals of every 500 rounds, deliberate immersion in abrasive sand, thick mud, and corrosive salt water, immediately followed by live firing to test environmental resilience, the radical procedure of freezing the weapons solid and then firing them without any prior cleaning or maintenance, and even testing with intentionally worn barrels, pre-damaged parts, and components that were deliberately misaligned to simulate worst-case field conditions and manufacturing imperfections. The cumulative outcomes of these exhaustive and unforgiving trials were nothing short of extraordinary, far surpassing previous benchmarks. The stark contrast in performance between the venerable M118-21 Browning and Green's revolutionary M2 redesign was vividly illustrated by the following critical metrics. Metric E, M1921 Browning. Previous model, M2 Browning. A Green's redesign, the average rounds before first malfunction, 840, 423, 200. Malfunctions per 1,000 rounds by Euro 12.3, 2.1. Required armor adjustments per barrel change, 100% I0%. Field reliability rating, 68%, 94%. Upon the conclusive compilation of his extensive findings and the unprecedented data, Dr. Green formally presented his comprehensive report to Army Ordnance. Accompanying this detailed submission was a powerful and unequivocal recommendation. Approve the M2 for immediate production, signaling his absolute confidence in the weapon's readiness for widespread deployment. On April 8, 1932, a pivotal gathering took place at the Army Ordnance Board meeting in Washington, D.C. A distinguished assembly of 12 senior military officers and eminent civilian weapons experts convened to meticulously review Dr. Green's groundbreaking M2 proposal. While they had all carefully perused his meticulously compiled test data, a palpable air of skepticism permeated the room. Colonel Frederick Rice, who held the influential position of Chief Weapons Procurement Officer, took the lead in initiating the line of questioning. He addressed Dr. Green directly, stating, "Dr. Green, your reported test results are undeniably impressive, yet they are also quite unprecedented in the annals of firearms development. It is a fact that no machine gun in history has ever managed to achieve a remarkable 94% reliability rating when subjected to realistic field conditions." Responding to Colonel Rice's challenge, Dr. Green asserted, "Sir, the fundamental reason for this unparalleled performance lies in the fact that no machine gun has ever before been manufactured to such extraordinarily tight tolerances. Colonel Rice immediately seized upon this point, retorting, "That, Dr. Green, is precisely where the core of the problem lies. Your innovative design demands a level of manufacturing precision that we simply cannot realistically sustain within the parameters of mass production. What has proven successful with a mere 6 meticulously hand-built prototypes will inevitably prove unfeasible when attempting to produce 50,000 units on a large scale." Dr. Green attempted to counter, explaining, "Sir, I have diligently developed comprehensive and detailed manufacturing specifications that address this very concern." However, Colonel Rice interrupted him, pressing his argument, "Specifications which, frankly, most of our current contractors will be utterly incapable of meeting. And even if, by some remote possibility, they could, the associated production cost would be utterly prohibitive. Your M2, as designed, is projected to be twice as expensive to manufacture compared to the existing M1921. Interjecting into the escalating debate, Major General Williams raised another significant concern. "There is also," he began, "the critical question surrounding your specific proof testing methodology. The practice of loading ammunition with a 30% overpressure is unequivocally not a standard procedure within our established protocols. Indeed, some members of my staff firmly believe that your testing approach was not only unnecessarily dangerous, but also constituted a clear violation of existing safety regulations." Dr. Green, undeterred, calmly defended his actions. "Sir, the rigorous nature of that testing undeniably served to prove the inherent robustness and resilience of the design." Major General Williams, however, offered a starkly different interpretation. "Or, Dr. Green, it simply proved your recklessness. It must be remembered that you are primarily a manufacturing engineer by profession, not a seasoned weapons designer. This particular redesign represents a rather radical and significant departure from John Browning's revered original concept. Are you in essence implying that you possess superior knowledge or insight compared to the legendary John Browning himself?" At this provocative suggestion, the meeting room immediately erupted into a cacophony of heated arguments and dissenting voices. Amidst the escalating fervor, exclamations punctuated the air. "The test data is absolutely undeniable," countered by arguments like, "Such impressive test data holds no practical value whatsoever if we are incapable of mass-producing the weapon efficiently. Perhaps our focus should shift towards the development of 20mm cannons instead." Another voice passionately reminded the assembly, "The Army has already committed millions of dollars in substantial investment towards .50 caliber development." Throughout this tumultuous exchange, Dr. Green remained conspicuously silent, a stoic observer, as his painstakingly developed work was systematically dissected and seemingly dismantled by the relentless forces of institutional bureaucracy. It was at this precise moment that General Douglas MacArthur made an unexpected entrance into the room. As the Army Chief of Staff, MacArthur commanded the highest rank within the entire U.S. Army, and his presence at this particular meeting was entirely unscheduled. His sudden appearance, imbued with an undeniable aura of authority, instantly quelled the heated arguments, imposing a profound and absolute silence upon everyone present. General MacArthur, his voice resonating with an unyielding authority, addressed the now silent assembly. "I have personally reviewed Dr. Green's comprehensive test data," he declared. "Furthermore, I have also taken the time to examine the grim casualty reports stemming from recent field exercises, specifically noting instances where the existing M1921 machine guns demonstrably failed during simulated combat scenarios. The stark reality is that the current weapon, due to its inherent unreliability, is tragically contributing to American casualties. Dr. Green's innovative design unequivocally provides a solution to this critical problem." Colonel Rice, despite the general's commanding presence, still attempted to interject with an objection. "Sir, the manufacturing challenges associated with this design will undoubtedly be substantial." MacArthur, however, cut him off with a definitive pronouncement. "I am hereby authorizing immediate production trials. If our current contractors prove incapable of meeting Dr. Green's exacting manufacturing tolerances, then we will simply locate and engage contractors who are fully capable of doing so. The M2 is, effective immediately, approved." With unwavering resolve, General MacArthur declared that if current manufacturers could not adhere to the exacting specifications and stringent tolerances, alternative contractors would be secured to ensure compliance. The M2, he affirmed, had received its crucial endorsement. A profound silence descended upon the assembly, a palpable stillness that underscored the gravity of the moment. MacArthur then turned his gaze to Dr. Green, entrusting him with a monumental responsibility. "Dr. Green, you will personally oversee the entire implementation of production. My expectation is for the initial batch of production M2s to be delivered within a tight 6-month time frame." Dr. Green responded simply, "Yes, sir," acknowledging the immense task ahead and the unyielding deadline. This pivotal decision marked an epoch-making shift that would forever redefine the landscape of aerial warfare. The approval of the M2 Browning carried profound implications, hinting at a future where airborne engagements would be fought with unprecedented lethality and reliability. However, despite the celebratory nature of this breakthrough, the ultimate and most unforgiving examination of the weapon's true capabilities still loomed on the horizon, destined to unfold within the intense crucible of conflict above the battlefields of Europe and the vast expanse of the Pacific. These future trials, yet unseen, would be the true measure of its engineering prowess and operational effectiveness. By December 15, 1933, at the historic Springfield Armory, the very first production models of the M2 Browning machine gun began their journey off the assembly line. Dr. Green, true to the trust placed in him, personally undertook the rigorous inspection of the initial 100 units, meticulously scrutinizing every critical dimension and ensuring that the stringent manufacturing tolerances were being consistently maintained. This diligent oversight confirmed the weapon's precision engineering. Although the U.S. military commenced the gradual process of replacing the older M1921s with the new M2s by mid-1934, this transition proved to be a slow and arduous endeavor. Thousands of M1921s remained in active service, and a significant number of commanders expressed understandable reluctance to adopt an unproven weapon, preferring the familiar, if less capable, equipment. We ask you to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Yet irrefutable validation for the M2 emerged from an entirely unexpected quarter. In July 1937, as the Second Sino-Japanese War ignited in China, American volunteers, who were flying for the Chinese Air Force, the nascent group that would later evolve into the legendary Flying Tigers, were equipped with some of the first aircraft featuring the M2. Their subsequent reports, dispatched back to the United States, were unequivocally unanimous in their praise. The M2 was nothing short of a revelation, a true game-changer in airborne combat. Captain Claire Chennault, a figure who would later become synonymous with American air power in Asia, penned an emphatic declaration: "The M2 Browning has fundamentally changed aerial combat. Our pilots can engage enemy aircraft with an unwavering confidence that their guns will not fail them in the heat of battle. Out of 63 confirmed aerial victories, we have encountered only 2 gun malfunctions, both directly attributable to combat damage rather than any inherent mechanical failure. This weapon is truly extraordinary in its performance and reliability." His words underscored the profound impact of dependable firepower. Nonetheless, the ultimate and most comprehensive examination of the M2's capabilities was destined to arrive with the onset of World War II, a conflict that would push the boundaries of military technology and human endurance to their absolute limits. On February 20th, 1942, high above the island of Java in the Netherlands East Indies, Lieutenant Garrett Shorty Whittaker found himself at the controls of a P-40 Warhawk, locked in a harrowing engagement against superior numbers of Japanese Zeros. His formidable aircraft was armed with a battery of 6 M2 Brownings, 3 strategically mounted in each wing, providing a devastating hail of concentrated fire. The Japanese fighters outnumbered the American contingent by a daunting 3-to-1 margin. Whittaker, displaying remarkable situational awareness, spotted a Zero diving aggressively on his wingman. With decisive precision, he banked hard, expertly lined up his shot, and squeezed the trigger. All 6 M2s roared to life, firing in perfect synchronized unison. The targeted Zero disintegrated instantly under the concentrated fusillade. Almost immediately, another Zero launched an attack from above. Whittaker, without hesitation, executed a daring inverted roll, pulled through the maneuver, and skillfully positioned himself on the attacker's tail. A subsequent, sustained burst from the M2s tore through the enemy aircraft, ripping the Zero's wing clean off. Whittaker continued his grueling aerial combat for a staggering 18 minutes, an eternity in the fast-paced, unforgiving realm of dogfights. Throughout this intense period, he expended 2,400 rounds of ammunition, achieving 3 confirmed kills without experiencing a single malfunction from his weapons. He eventually returned to base with depleted ammunition bays and a severely damaged aircraft, yet every single gun remained in perfect operational condition. His concise but impactful report to intelligence contained a singular, profound statement. "These .50s are the only reason I'm alive." Following such harrowing yet successful engagements, an overwhelming torrent of operational data began to pour in from every theater of the global conflict. The comprehensive M2 Browning combat performance statistics, meticulously compiled from 1942 to 1945, painted a compelling picture of its unparalleled reliability. Over 2 billion rounds were fired in combat during this period. The average malfunction rate was an astonishingly low 1.8 per 10,000 rounds. Guns requiring replacement due to wear and tear accounted for a mere 4.2% per year. Consequently, the field reliability rating for the M2 stood at an exceptional 96.3%. This extraordinary performance stands in stark contrast to the M1921 Browning's combat record from 1927 to 1941, which served as the M2's predecessor. The M1921 exhibited an average malfunction rate of 11.4 per 10,000 rounds, a significantly higher figure. Furthermore, 23% of M1921 guns required replacement annually due to wear, and its overall field reliability rating languished at 71%. The profound improvement demonstrated by the M2's dependability directly translated into a tangible and critical advantage: lives saved in the unforgiving skies of combat. On June 13, 1944, high above the embattled landscapes of Normandy, France, Captain Robert Johnson, piloting a P-47 Thunderbolt, found himself embroiled in a desperate struggle against a formidable force of 25 German fighters. His aircraft endured repeated hits. Cannon shells tore mercilessly through the fuselage, shredded the wings, and utterly destroyed the canopy. Johnson himself sustained wounds, and his aircraft was rendered barely flyable. Yet miraculously, his 8 M2 Brownings continued to unleash their relentless fire. In a running battle waged all the way back to England, he managed to shoot down 3 German fighters. Upon his eventual, albeit crash-landing, arrival at his base, armament officers meticulously counted 225 holes, riddling his aircraft. The M2s had fired a staggering 4,800 rounds, suffering only one malfunction, a damaged ammunition feed, which was directly caused by a 20mm cannon hit. Johnson's survival was unequivocally attributed to the unwavering performance of his guns. As the war progressed, such stories of the M2's unwavering performance multiplied exponentially across all theaters. In the vast expanse of the Pacific, Marine Corps Wildcats and Corsairs, heavily armed with M2s, established unquestionable ascendancy over Japanese aircraft. The kill ratio began to tip dramatically in favor of American pilots, a shift that was certainly influenced by superior tactics and training, but significantly amplified by the M2's unmatched and paramount dependability. Following the cessation of hostilities, invaluable insights emerged from the German perspective, as captured Luftwaffe pilots provided their candid assessments of American weaponry during interrogations by Allied intelligence. Major Hans Echard Bob, a highly decorated German ace credited with 60 aerial victories, offered a particularly insightful evaluation. The American .50 caliber was devastating, not because each individual gun possessed more inherent power than our 20mm cannon, it did not, but because American fighters consistently carried 6 or 8 of these weapons, and crucially, all of them worked every single time. When you engaged an American fighter, you knew with absolute certainty that you would face a coordinated, unwavering barrage of fire from multiple weapons. There was no lucky jam, no momentary lapse to afford you an opening. Our MG-151 cannons, while powerful, jammed frequently. The American guns, in stark contrast, never did. Ober Johannes Steinhoff, another distinguished German ace, corroborated this sentiment, adding, "We harbored a profound apprehension of the P-51 and P-47, not merely for their impressive performance characteristics, but even more so for their sheer, overwhelming firepower." The .50 caliber Browning stood as the most reliable aerial weapon of the entire war. When Americans initiated fire, you knew with certainty that every single gun would continue to discharge until they exhausted their ammunition supply. Against such unparalleled reliability, even superior tactical maneuvers could not always guarantee survival. The empirical evidence, presented in a stark combat effectiveness comparison from 1943 to 1945, unequivocally supported these first-hand accounts. American fighters equipped with M2 Brownings required an average of 1/800 rounds per air victory, experienced a gun malfunction rate causing mission abort of only 0.7%, and boasted a remarkable pilot confidence rating in their weapons of 94%. Conversely, German fighters, armed with MG 151-20 cannons, required a lower average of 870 rounds per air victory, but suffered a significantly higher gun malfunction rate causing mission abort at 8.2%, and their pilot's confidence rating in their weapons stood at a mere 73%. While the German cannons undeniably packed a greater punch per shot, the M2's unparalleled reliability ensured that American pilots could consistently bring their formidable firepower to bear, making every round count. By August 1945, during the crucial B-29 operations over Japan, the M2 Browning continued to prove its mettle under the most extreme conditions. Each B-29 Superfortress, a formidable flying fortress, carried up to 12 M2 Brownings as its primary defensive armament. During these high-altitude bombing missions, these guns were required to operate flawlessly in temperatures plummeting to minus 40 degrees Celsius, at altitudes where the atmospheric air was too thin to sustain human life without the aid of oxygen masks. Despite these unforgiving atmospheric challenges, the M2s functioned with unwavering perfection, a testament to their robust design and engineering. Gunnery Sergeant Michael McGuire, who served as a tail gunner aboard the B-29, City of Los Angeles, fired an astounding 18,000 rounds over the course of his 35 missions. His guns experienced only 2 minor operational anomalies, both instances caused by frozen condensation that cleared rapidly after just a few initial rounds. McGuire later recalled with poignant clarity, "I trusted those 50s with my life. When Japanese fighters came at us, I knew with absolute certainty that my guns would fire. That unshakable conviction, knowing your weapon will not betray you, that's what kept me sane and resolute through 35 harrowing missions over Japan." This profound psychological bulwark, born from absolute weapon reliability, proved as vital as the firepower itself. The profound declaration, "kept me sane through 35 missions over Japan," powerfully encapsulates the critical importance of the M2 Browning machine gun's unwavering dependability in the crucible of aerial combat. Beyond such personal testimonies, military statisticians have meticulously calculated the weapon's far-reaching statistical impact. Their analyses reveal that the M2's significantly enhanced reliability averted the loss of an estimated 2,800 aircraft, which otherwise would have succumbed to failures in their defensive armaments. Furthermore, this steadfast performance preserved the lives of 18,600 aircrew members aboard bombers that successfully repelled enemy attacks, and saved 40,200 fighter pilots who triumphed in dogfights because their guns unfailingly operated. Consequently, the pioneering manufacturing innovations championed by Samuel Green, coupled with his extraordinary resolve to validate these advancements through perilous, self-endangering trials, collectively preserved the lives of more than 25,000 American service personnel. It is a testament to one man's relentless pursuit of manufacturing exactitude that such a staggering number of lives were spared. On May 8, 1945, a day etched into history as VE Day, Samuel Green found himself within the hallowed grounds of Springfield Armory, observing newsreel footage that depicted jubilant American forces celebrating their triumph in Europe. The flickering images on screen showed soldiers discharging M2 Brownings in a spontaneous eruption of joy, symbolic of their hard-won victory. These very weapons, fundamentally refined by his meticulous efforts, had played an indispensable role in securing the Allied success. Yet, Outside the confines of Springfield Armory, Green's name remained virtually unknown. While John Browning is revered as the brilliant mind behind the M2's original design, and General MacArthur is credited for green-lighting its mass production, and legendary aces like Bong and Maguire are lauded for their aerial conquests, Samuel Green, the manufacturing engineer whose ingenuity made the M2 truly functional and battle-ready, receded into obscurity. He, however, appeared to bear this lack of recognition with profound humility. When a journalist from the local Springfield newspaper sought to interview him about his pivotal contributions to the M2's development, Green characteristically declined, stating simply, "John Browning designed the gun. I just made it manufacturable. That's not a story." His unassuming nature underscored a quiet dedication to craft over celebrity. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. By the cessation of hostilities, the production figures for the M2 Browning were nothing short of astonishing, illustrating its unparalleled demand and deployment. A total exceeding 2,000 M2 units had been manufactured, while an astounding 2.3 billion rounds were expended in active combat operations. Remarkable still is its enduring service life, continuing in active duty for over 80 years since its inception. This iconic weapon has been adopted by the armed forces of more than 100 nations globally, cementing its status as the longest-serving military weapon in American history. The fundamental design, which Green meticulously perfected in 1933, astonishingly remains in frontline service to this very day. Although contemporary M2A1 variants incorporate advanced materials and sophisticated manufacturing methodologies, the core architecture, particularly Green's precisely engineered timing mechanism, endures without alteration, a testament to its foundational brilliance. The modern legacy of the M2 Browning is pervasive and undeniable, permeating every facet of the U.S. military's operations. These formidable machine guns are ubiquitously integrated across various platforms, including being mounted on robust Humvees, naval vessels, diverse aircraft, and strategic ground emplacements. Elite Special Operations Forces routinely deploy them, Navy SEALs affix them to their swift boats for maritime operations, and Marines depend on their steadfast performance in ground engagements. In the recent conflicts spanning Afghanistan and Iraq, M2s reliably discharged millions of rounds, upholding the very same legendary dependability that Green meticulously engineered a remarkable 9 decades ago. The weapon's extraordinary longevity unequivocally validates Green's core philosophical insight that exceptionally tight manufacturing tolerances fundamentally obviate the necessity for tedious field adjustments. While contemporary manufacturing techniques can achieve tolerances bordering on zero, far surpassing what Green could accomplish in his era, the underlying principle he established remains profoundly relevant and unchallenged. Samuel Green, the unsung architect of the M2's legendary reliability, concluded his distinguished career at Springfield Armory in 1953, retiring at the age of 62. His recognition for this monumental contribution was characteristically understated. The Army's Meritorious Civilian Service Award comprised merely of a certificate and a handshake. There was no public ceremony, no fanfare, and no press coverage to mark his achievements. He passed away in 1968 at 77 years old, his obituary in the local Springfield newspaper briefly noting his tenure as an engineer at Springfield Armory, yet conspicuously omitting any mention of the M2. However, In 1973, a dedicated contingent of World War II veterans, having belatedly uncovered Green's indispensable role in the M2's development, sought out his widow, Evelyn. They presented her with a commemorative plaque bearing an inscription that profoundly articulated their gratitude to Dr. Samuel Green, whose precision saved our lives. Because of your work, our guns never failed us. Because of you, we came home. The crews of the 8th Air Force will never forget. Evelyn Green was overcome with emotion upon reading the heartfelt tribute. She reflected, "Sam would have said he was just doing his job, but I think he would have been proud." The enduring moral of Samuel Green's story is a compelling reminder that the most impactful innovations are not always dramatic overhauls or revolutionary redesigns. Often, they manifest as quiet, incremental advancements in manufacturing precision, transforming a concept into a consistently functional reality. This narrative underscores that the true hero is not invariably the celebrated inventor, but frequently the diligent engineer who meticulously refines and perfects an invention, ensuring its practical efficacy. Samuel Green unequivocally demonstrated that excellence in execution holds as much, if not more, significance than sheer brilliance in initial design. His extraordinary willingness to subject his work to destructive testing, literally risking his own life to prove the absolute precision of his manufacturing, ultimately preserved the lives of 25,000 American service members. Therefore, the next time the iconic Browning M2, famously dubbed the gun that won the war, is mentioned, it is imperative to remember Samuel Green, the manufacturing gunsmith, whose unwavering dedication ensured it would never jam.